Hey y'all. So today I'm going to be talking about body positivity. When is it really great for our society and when does it go too far? And this is a little bit of a controversial topic, but since my page kind of centers around health and wellness and weight loss and weight gain, I'm going to kind of bring it up and discuss with you guys about my personal opinions and thoughts. Disclaimer, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a health and wellness professional. I'm simply speaking on my experience and what makes sense to me and how my brain works and all of that good stuff. So remember to consult your doctor or physician before making any life-changing decisions. And I hope you guys enjoy this video. So there was a video where a celebrity came out, and I'm not going to mention who in this video, but a celebrity came out about a year ago and was like, telling people basically to stop commenting on other people's bodies. Now, this is a thread that is, has come up multiple times in celebrity culture where people do not want to be scrutinized for losing 5 pounds or gaining 5 pounds. People don't want to be scrutinized when they're just relaxing in their bikinis on their yacht and paparazzi is picking them apart in these blogs. And we've seen that since day one, where celebrities struggle being in the public eye and being under such high volume scrutiny from the public. And I think we do have to understand that everybody is human. And just as much as, I wouldn't go into my local community and start calling people fat, like I'm not going to do that in public at the grocery store, so why would I, comment on people's bodies online? So I think that there's some valid reasons why it's best not to comment on people's bodies. I think because we have this idea that we can judge someone's health by their appearance, and that's just not the case. You can't judge people's health by their appearance. There's people who are bigger, who work out and eat healthy, and they're going to live longer than the skinny person who's eating fast food and junk food all day, And so just because someone is skinny does not mean they're healthy. And just because someone is bigger or has more curves does not mean that that person is unhealthy, right? Now, when it gets to a certain point, and I have to say this because it is important that we understand how obesity affects us in America and how it is kind of run rampant. And there's so many problems that relate to this issue that are not just based on the individual consumption, but also based on society at large and how our food is processed and the hormones in our food and the preservatives in our food and the chemicals in our food. And there's a lot of foods that are specifically engineered in labs to be chemically addictive to our brains in the same way that cocaine is. It's meant to be addictive. The sugar is not the same sugar in 1950s that it is today. The sugar is engineered to be addictive to people. It's not just your sugar cane that's grown out back, there's a lab process done on these certain foods, especially fast foods, especially junk foods, especially processed foods, that so much goes into it that is contamination, that is toxic, that, other places like in Europe and across the world have banned these certain foods because they are so toxic to our body and to our environment. And that's just something we don't talk enough about. I think when we see an obese person, we automatically assume that they don't have discipline when we're not looking at the full picture of our country now, the way it is now with the food we have now versus how it was, 100 years ago, farming or however our food was that, was local farms instead of mass-produced farm animals and mass-produced dairy products and mass-produced meat products. And, that's why I like to get my meat at the local meat shop if I can, because it's so bad, it's just the way that our food is handled It should not be that way. We shouldn't have to be at our local grocery stores scanning the ingredients of the labels over and over again to make sure there's nothing that is harmful on in the product. And so, but I think that overall, we have societies, options for us. And we have to understand that a lot of the time in lower income areas, that the food options, there's not a lot of produce. There's not a lot of healthy, fresh food. A lot of the times there's only fast food places around and not a lot to choose from at the grocery store. And the prices are higher at the grocery store in these lower income areas. So you have to kind of think like, what's the motivation behind that? It's keeping people, disempowered, keeping people unhealthy. So they require medical care. And then the medical industry profits off of these people's health conditions that were caused by diet, And so that's another thing we have to understand about weight gain. We also have to understand that there does come into play a role of discipline and a role of understanding and education about healthy foods and what is healthy and what is not healthy. I think, for myself growing up, there wasn't a lot of education. Like, I ate healthy to an extent in an American diet, as you can be, but, that I didn't have a lot of education from my parents or from my peers or from, at school as to like, what is a healthy diet? Even the pyramid they give you, science has shown that diet doesn't work for everybody, and so it's one of those things where, overall, we see this obesity problem spike in America, and it's worse today than it's ever been. And I think that, in some ways that falls on the individual, and in some ways that falls on society, and it has to go both hand in hand, because, doctors, they need to be not just prescribing medication for the symptoms, but also addressing the causes, which is diet and exercise. And I think doctors today are a little bit more, offering that diet and exercise information depending on what kind of healthcare you have and where you go. But it's, it's one of those problems that, doctors are not encouraged to do that because they want people to come in sick so they can give them medications, and so we have to look at all of these things when we're talking about weight gain and weight loss in society. We have to understand the history of where we've come since the 1920s when skinny kind of came back in the flapper girl era, and skinny was like pushed to us during the whole heroin chic era, and pretty much as for my entire childhood growing up, I remember commercial after commercial, after show after show, after movie of women or men commenting on other women's bodies and telling them, oh, you need to lose weight. You need to lose weight. I remember Britney Spears was 16 and they nonstop commented about her body. I felt bad for how things turned out for her because honestly, like anyone at that age put under that level of scrutiny in the public eye when she looked amazing. She had a beautiful body. And I'll see if I can find the video, but she had a beautiful body. And, what are we doing? We're like, coming down on her, like the media is coming down on her for, you need to look stick skinny, and that's just so unhealthy, like people were being pushed to smoke cigarettes to be skinnier, and so we saw this change from, in like a century ago when it was considered, attractive for women to be curvy and overweight because that meant that they had wealth and they had money. And even decaying teeth was seen as a profitable sign because that means they can afford sugar. So this is the society that we transitioned from, where it was seen as a positive to have some weight on you. And then we completely turned around, opposite direction. And the skinny chic was in and it never went out of style. And we're still pushed this to this day. I mean, if you think about even the what is it called? the Disney characters, right? The villains are these overweight characters. The heroes are these stick skinny women. You know, you look at Elizabeth Taylor, stick skinny with these, we see these 6 inches waist all over the 1950s, 60s, 70s. And then through the 80s and 90s, it was just the skinny, slim body. No curve was accepted in the front or the back. They didn't want any curves, you know? And I'm like, that's kind of crazy to me because curves are beautiful. Like, I think that, you know, like if you don't have curves, you're still gorgeous. You know what I mean? But I think curves on a woman are really beautiful. Like, I think that's universally seen as a beautiful trait of a woman to have curves. But like in the 80s and 90s, it was considered, you know, the Kate Moss model and the Keira Knightley actor and like, you know, just the stick skinny, nothing on you, just heroin chic, you know? And I just think that that is kind of, you know, a reflection of, you know, men controlling women. You know, I think that, you know, as women became more powerful in society, men tried to control the women through constantly worrying about their weight. So they had no opinions or no intelligent thoughts to add to the conversation, kind of minimizing a woman's power based on her appearance. So men stayed in power. I think a lot of it goes back to the patriarchal society that we're in, where men are, you know, praised and celebrated as they age, while women are, you know, told they need to look young for the rest of their life. And so there's a lot of kind of double standards that men just don't have to deal with that women have always had to deal with their entire life. And it's a kind of a slippery slope, you know, like you want to lose weight, you want to be happy, you want to be healthy, you want to be able to do activities, but you don't want to fall into the trap of being this stick skinny, what society deems as the perfect body, you know, because it's just so many nip and tucks away, you know, like, you know, people risk their lives every day to go on that table for a mommy makeover or for you know, the BBL trend. That was a big trend that everyone was getting BBLs, you know, and now we see that trend is going out of style and everybody wants to be skinny again. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like the trends are going to go in and out of style, you know? So it's just like, don't do things based off of a trend. You know, you will regret it. You know, we see SZA came out and said she regrets getting her BBL. I think she looks amazing. I think she looked amazing before. I think she looks amazing after. But she came out saying, you know, I got swept up in that trend and I wish I wouldn't have because my body was beautiful before. And I think a lot of people who do these drastic changes don't realize how beautiful their bodies were before, and that it's okay to have a different body type than what society is deeming is the perfect body type. You know, I'll probably always have curves. I love my curves. I've accepted my curves. And, you know, I am doing my best to, you know, as I get closer to being more successful, I'm doing my best to not let my mind be preoccupied so much by my weight, because that's when the men in this society win, is when women constantly worry about their weight and they don't do meaningful, impactful work in their art and in their creative endeavors and in their career endeavors and their intelligent pursuits. So don't fall into that trap. And I think, you know, overall, the body positive movement kind of counteracted what society was pushing on us since we were kids. So the body positive movement has been probably like maybe the last couple of years, I want to say. And it's just been this, you know, movement where it's kind of like, you know, it's okay to age. It's okay for certain parts to sag. It's okay to have wrinkles. It's okay to have cellulite. You know, it's okay to have, you know, a lot of Instagram, social media, what people show online is these highlight reel. And the body positive movement was basically saying people pose like this, but when they're relaxing, they look like this. And that is okay. That is completely fine. That is a relaxed body in its natural state, and it's completely completely normal to look like that when you sit down, you know? So it's like there's been like a huge body positive movement. Now, where I think it gets toxic, and this is just, I'll talk briefly on this because I don't want it to offend anybody, and that's not what I'm trying to do on this platform. But I think when it goes too far is when obesity and morbid obesity is promoted, and when an unhealthy lifestyle is promoted along with that of, you know, mass consuming fast food products and processed foods and mass consuming them for your viewers. And then we even get into kind of some crazy stuff about, you know, enablers that, you know, kind of want to see people get so big that they die, you know, and that's a real thing. I didn't just make that up. Like, that's real. Like, there's people who enable these obese people because they can't even move around, you know, where I'm talking about the as big as like the 3, 4, 5, 600 pounds, you know, you can barely move at that weight. And so the enablers are the people who are constantly bringing them food, you know, and the enablers have a lot to do with this lifestyle and what got them to where they are, you know, and sometimes it's just a simple mom loves daughter, husband loves wife, so they just try to make them happy. But a lot of the times this enabling can create the problem to be bigger, you know, because you have someone who's feeding the problem every single day, you know, and without someone having, you know, the get it going and getting the food, you know, they might not be eating those same things, you know? And so, yeah, I just think that, you know, when we've seen with the body positive movement initially when it came on and where it is today, I think there's two sides of it. And one side is kind of saying be healthy, but know that you can love yourself where you're at. And, you know, you can't judge a person's health by their body type. And then the other side is kind of like eat whatever you want. It doesn't matter. Your body is your choice, and you can kind of just, you know, eat whatever you want to eat, you know, and it's totally fine. And, you know, just because you're really fat doesn't mean you're unhealthy. And I just think that that is kind of, you know, not the best perspective to have, because like when you get into the higher weight, you do have high blood pressure, you do have hypertension, you do have pressure on your heart and your organs, and your body and your bones and your structure. The weight puts a lot of pressure, and it can cause a lot of health conditions that are purely caused by the higher weight, you know, so to say, and diabetes, you know what I mean? So to say that you can be any size and just be healthy and happy, I think that that's not true when you get into those higher weights, you know, because that starts to become an issue where your quality of life is being reduced based on your size. And that's, I think, when someone's quality of life is being affected by an illness or by, a weight problem or whatever it is, when the quality of life is being reduced, that's when someone needs to wake up and realize my lifestyle is not actually giving me what I want out of life. You know, my lifestyle is actually hurting me more than helping me. And it's important for people to be self-aware enough to want to change their lifestyle. And it's great to love yourself. Everyone should love themselves, whether you're bigger, whether you're fat, whether you're obese, whether you're not, whether you're super skinny, whether you're anorexic. Like, you should love yourself as you work on your problems, as you work on your insecurities, as you work on becoming a healthier individual. Loving yourself comes first. It's number one, because you can't see real positive change if you don't switch the engine from negative thoughts and behaviors to positive thoughts and behaviors. That is important, you know? And so when we look at this, you know, we have to realize, you know, that body positivity is so important. It's crucial to counteract the very narrow mindset of society saying that only this stick skinny body type is considered acceptable. It's important to counteract that with a movement that says any body, any size is lovable, and we can love ourselves at any weight. You know, the self-love element and the self-care element, I think, is vital for any woman at any stage of life in any body to develop a sense of self-love is so important for our self-esteem, for our confidence, for our growth. But I just think it's important to note that, just like a person who is extremely anorexic would not be considered healthy to the mass majority of people, a person who is extremely overweight should not be considered healthy to the mass majority of people either, because it starts to affect your overall quality of life. It starts to affect your health, your ability to move, your mobility, your diabetes, your high blood pressure, your heart attacks and strokes and clogged arteries and fatty organs and fatty livers. Like, these are all big issues that can lead to an early death. So I think it's important to remember the severity that, when you're at a point of being overweight, you can be marching slowly to your early death. And I don't think that should be promoted to the masses as something that we should all try to be. I think that it's important to note that, to be able to say that both things are true at the same time, that yes, body positivity is important, but obesity is unhealthy. And those two truths can be true at the same time, And so that's just my little thoughts on kind of what society kind of what society guided us into being as women and restricted us into being. And also, what counteracted that movement of the heroin chic would be the body positivity movement that came out probably the 2020, 2021. And then we see, as this movement has kind of developed, we see the extremist side of it that I would say is promoting kind of an unhealthy lifestyle. So that's just me going from, point A to B. And I think it is important that we don't assume that just because someone is overweight that they are unhealthy when they could possibly most definitely have a health condition like PCOS or like endometriosis or a hormonal condition or, something that's a medication they're on that's causing weight gain. Like, there's so many different reasons why someone could be gaining weight outside of their diet and lifestyle. So I agree that unless you're a health professional and you're helping your clients get to a smaller weight, we shouldn't just assume off the bat someone's health condition based on their size, because we truly don't know what they're dealing with and what they have gotten to a heavier weight because of these certain health conditions. So as much as it's important to, not promote an unhealthy lifestyle, it is important to not feel comfortable to comment on people's bodies when we don't really know what's going on there. So yeah, that's just my little 2 cents on the weight loss, weight gain world. And I hope you guys enjoy. So come back for more tips on health and wellness, some more recipe ideas. I'm going to do another cookbook session, and we'll get all into the nitty-gritty of weight loss, weight gain, and a healthy lifestyle. So I hope you guys enjoy.